Hi guys, welcome to Across the Table. Today we are talking about the American Dream and what that means, and I guess the deeper meaning behind it. We'll question the definition of it, all that jazz. We've got a bunch of statistics that Najee's done the research for. So we got everybody here today. Everyone go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Najee here.
Matt.
Jacob.
Alrighty, I think we're going to get into it now. Let's do it.
Sweet. Let's do this. Oh, it's sad to unlock your phone and see messages from your HR manager and your boss. No, I'm not coming in early.
Yeah, you don't. You never want that.
That sounded more like, I guess, I don't know, not coming in early. It sounded like your HR manager and your boss is like, what'd you do wrong? What'd you do?
Yeah, you're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. We gotta let you go. I thought it was
In your pursuit of the American dream, it's not happening.
Yeah. My dream has been shot down miserably. I do kind of want to check that. But anyways, I guess we should do like the definition, right?
Yeah, let's go through that
So
first.
I don't even know.
Have we even introduced our topic yet?
Yeah, I did.
We just.
That's what I opened with.
Where you?
Guys,
Jacob's in pain.
Jacob's
Jacob's
in a lot
not
of
all
pain.
here today.
Grace for him
jeez.
and his condition.
All right. So when you look at the definition of, I guess that's the right way to say the American dream. It's weird to say definition of the American dream. Mm-hmm. But the American dream is defined as the ideal by which equality of opportunity is available to any American, allowing the highest aspirations and goals to be achieved. Right off
Ideally.
the bat. Yes, ideally. That's right off the bat. What are you guys' feeling towards that?
I feel like it's not a definition I would change.
Right.
It definitely, that's what it is. It's just whether or not it's actual equal opportunity.
So then I would ask, so the follow-up question is that something that's attainable now?
Yes and no. It really is. I don't know. I think a lot of it is doable, and a lot of it is not. I don't know. It depends on where you come from, what family you're born into, all that kind of shit. But for the most part, I think it's doable if you define what you want. Because a lot of people go, I'm chasing the American dream. Well, what do you want? It's like once you define what you want, then you have a goal to go after. But a lot of people, I feel like, don't define what they want. And then that just makes the American dream, or the American dream, whatever you want to do, a lot less focused, a lot less defined. I feel like a lot of people don't know what that is, other than if you look at the American dream now, a lot of people probably go, Instagram famous, take pictures, post, and then you make money and you're chilling and you go and do whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about, because I think if you were to look back to like the boomer age, going through the 50s and 60s, the American dream was like own a house, own a car,
yeah,
have a
kids.
family,
White
white
picket
picket
fence.
fence.
White
Like
picket
that,
fence.
that was the American dream. And
Every time I think of Edward Scissorhands, like just all the houses
That's a good one.
exactly
I think
the
of
same.
Major Payne.
yeah.
Great movie.
So it's
but also,
it's really interesting that you bring that up, to see the shift that's happened. I think a lot of that comes now too, in like the technology age, is you have a lot of like the seemingly instantly rich people. Like you have people seemingly instantly rich people. You have people like Zuckerberg, who's like a billionaire because he made Facebook.
Which is so crazy cool.
It is
It's
crazy
so,
cool.
Like,
And then you have,
I don't know, people hate on all of that,
Yeah.
but it's like, dude, overnight just made something no one's ever done.
before.
It's crazy.
It is
It's
nuts.
crazy.
Then you have people like Bezos, who's got Amazon, and you have like Google, and these are all people that at the start of it, like people would laugh them out of roots.
Well, not even at the start they'd laugh about it. It's sort of just like they saw a need and then did it. Okay, you ever seen Robots?
Yeah.
one of my all-time
One of my favorite movies.
What a great
favorite
movie.
animated movies.
First of all, what a great movie. But second of all, like the whole thing is see a need, fill a need.
Yeah.
Dude, that's literally what they
my
did.
heart, man.
It's-
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's so good. But that's literally what they did. They went, okay, we need, the internet's a crazy fucking place. How do we organize it? Google. People need books, maybe they can have books ordered to their houses. Amazon, and then it's everything now.
People needed a clean interface for their computer.
Yeah.
Windows.
Yeah.
Now, here's the best story that I'll have for this entire podcast.
Okay.
My mom was approached by someone who said, "Hey, I'm in on the ground floor of this company called Windows.
Oh no.
I can get you to buy some stocks for really, really cheap." And my mom looked at him and was like, "Windows, like on your house? Like, what do you? I don't understand what you mean." He was like, "No, it's a better way to use your computer." And she went, "That's not gonna happen."
That's just cringeworthy.
It's so cringeworthy,
So
right?
That's the craziest
Yeah.
thing too. Is like off of someone else's success. If you get in on that
If
ground
you get out of
floor,
that, yes.
you're there.
Well, that's the one I really like about Gary Vee. Gary Vee talks about how he shut down Uber. Like he was like denied him 3 times, and like I think it was $30,000 would be worth like 30 million or something like that
Sure.
right now. Like he was like, that's one of my worst, just misses.
God, it's crazy. That is one of the craziest, I think, parts of our capitalist society, and just the ability to make something
dude,
out of nothing almost.
To make something out of nothing, but to get in early.
Yeah.
To believe in it ahead of
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
And it's just
or just to get lucky. I mean, that's
yeah, that too.
right. You just go, that sounds like a
have the
terrible idea, but
opportunity.
here you go.
But but
Why
why
not?
not? Crazy.
It is crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about too. Like how many things can you get on the ground floor of that are like
Well, that's
as
the more money you have,
yeah
the more opportunities you have, but then also
Yeah.
it's the more opportunities you have to succeed / fail.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you could fail at 50 opportunities and
Yeah.
then just be really screwed.
So-
But you're going to.
yeah.
No, it's like it's just
The chance of
you
those big successes that you are the person
are
that,
minimal, but also like it's spending your money right and doing it correctly. I mean, you're not going to invest in Uber, Microsoft, Apple every time.
Right.
If you do invest, it's gonna some's gonna hit, some's gonna miss, but you'll make your money back on some. It's
and
not
I think the chances are more likely that you'll
miss.
fail, but also hit the median
Yes.
businesses. You know, like they're doing okay.
Yeah.
I made a little return on my investment. It's not bad.
so
But the perception that you invest in one thing, it's Uber,
Oh, yeah.
and you're making $1 bajillion.
No.
It's not realistic.
Not happening.
so
Yeah.
because from the sound when you whittle it down, the American dream almost just sounds like monetary success. So is that what you would define the American dream
I would
as?
say
I think that's what I've always felt it
monetary
was.
success?
I think growing up, and I think my kind of negative outlook towards it growing up, I think is because I always had it just was about having money, and then there felt like there was no substance to the American dream.
right.
Which
well, I
is,
feel like it's
I don't feel as strongly right now with where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But I think growing up and being so idealistic, I was completely against this idea that all we should be focused on is this level of success,
Right.
which monetary is such a big component of.
Yeah, I've never looked at it like from a monetary standpoint. Like
Right.
I don't know. I guess like you look at those Jim Carrey quotes where he says, "I wish everyone could be famous and wealthy so they could realize like it's not really worth that much." And I feel like even before he said that, I've always viewed fame and wealth like that. I'm like, well, it's not really the things that matter. And like again, it's like it goes into just how you were raised and how I was raised, I suppose. But like just other things interest me more.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, of course, like money is good and I'm all about making money and working hard to do that. But it's never been like the only thing.
It's
Like
very interesting.
for that to be like, for money to be your only drive, like, for me, it's hard to imagine that because I just care about so many other things.
Yeah.
So,
And for me, I'd say like the American dream to me has always looked like what your parents told you growing up. You can be whatever you want to be
Right,
or
yeah,
do
yeah.
whatever you want
Yeah.
to do as long as you put your heart and set your mind to do it. Like that was the ideal behind the American
I guess
dream.
I could. Yeah, I can get behind that. I don't know. I guess it has been monetary in my view my entire life, just because it's the opportunity to get paid to do whatever you
What
want to
you
do
wanna
if you
do,
work hard
right.
enough. Yeah, if you go. I mean, I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard. I know it's like super famous. I have no idea who said it, but it's like figure out what you like and then find someone that'll pay you to do that for the rest of your life, or something along those lines. or find a way to get paid for doing that. I don't know.
I think you might have been right on the first shot.
I might
It
have.
sounded very familiar.
Yeah, but either way, it's I guess the American dream to me has always been the career side of life, and then there's sort of like home life and doing what you want, starting a family, like all that stuff is, I guess,
something that's
separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the American dream to me has always been opportunity of work, I guess.
It's so interesting because for me, I think I am not someone who would go after purely money, and I think everyone at the table knows that. But like, for me, the American dream was associated with everyone gets their nice house with their nice white picket fence, has their radioactive family. What's it called?
Nuclear family.
Nuclear family.
Yeah.
What is it? 2 kids.
2 kids.
Radioactive family.
Yeah.
Probably a dog.
Yep.
Yeah, not a radioactive
kids.
family.
You said
I knew that
radioactive
he would
family.
get it with
I
it.
just
so
imagined like
I was
a
using a
3-armed
lifeline there.
kid and a 4-eyed dog.
that for some reason just reminds me of The Simpsons. But,
Yep.
Yeah. He was like, if I throw a synonym out there, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but for me, the American dream was always so negative because that's how I viewed it.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that you're talking about was like my ideals.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about the American dream being a part of those ideals. I thought I'm kind of working against the American dream to create that place or to help in creating that place where people feel like they have the equal opportunities. They feel like they can, pursue dreams, even if it's not, that you're paid for it, but you're able to have a job that you're able to kind of what we talked about in the past episodes, work, and then do your hobbies on the side that you love, and have a family that you love, so on and so forth. And I think my vision of the American dream was the complete opposite of those ideals. So I'm super curious where I got my vision of the American dream versus where you guys got yours.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what connotation for me that like kind of led up to that.
Yeah, but I guess
I never heard American dream.
It was
in
never
good
taught
context.
to me. It was never.
No one
This is
talked
the
about-
American
no.
dream. It's like you talk about it in like history class. Well,
Yeah.
like the American dream started. I don't know, whatever that was, whoever coined it.
Right.
But it's never defined. They never go. The American dream is X.
I think going to a private Christian school, I think it was talked about kind of negatively. At least
really?
the teacher that I taught, if I'm like, I'm trying to like dig really hard, but I feel like
Because
there was
it's-
this negative
well, it's
connotation
because
to
it's
this isn't how we're
often
supposed to.
it's often associated with like selfish gain.
Yeah.
Like the whole
Yeah,
idea of chasing the American dream is you're gonna make it for yourself, and it's not an outward look towards bringing everybody else up with you.
Right.
Which is why I could see where you
in a Christian
in a
school,
Christian setting, like, you
environment,
might get a
it was like
negative
this
connotation
is
to
not what you want.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I probably first felt that way. I don't even remember the story very well, but The Great Gatsby, and I haven't seen the movie, so I think that's kind of where I first heard or whatever about the American dream.
Yeah.
And again, it felt very selfish, and it felt empty and hollowless. So they're like, anyways. So
See, like
I think that's interesting because that's like a big book that we all read in school, right?
Yeah.
So
Like my earliest memory is actually going through like American history throughout school. When you hear about the forefathers and how they worked hard to create the country, like they were the original American dreamers. They saw something and they chased after it. That's where my vision of the American dream was birthed out of. It was birthed out of looking at U.S. history and how this place eventually became, the number one country on the planet.
Yeah.
Well, I always think of like the Industrial Revolution. I always like Carnegie.
Yeah.
I forget. I remember watching like The Men Who Built America on the History Channel, which was this whole thing about like how literally everything got started and just like the invention of gasoline and oil and all that shit. Like, because I forget who it was, but one of them, like a byproduct of processing the oil was gasoline.
Yeah.
And the dude was like, I forget. God, I really want to say it was Carnegie, but I don't think it was. I think it was someone else. But he was like, there's got to be something
You can do it.
you can do with this.
Yeah.
And that's just such a visionary thing to go, all right, what the fuck can we do with this? Like, what can we do? And then, like, the car.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's
Yeah.
just like that was my, like, idealistic, view of the American dream, where it's just like these guys making absolute
I mean, it
monopolies
does.
and building it from the ground up.
it does like I don't know I guess the land of opportunity is what you call it. It leans towards the ability to just like create anything, and, like just like be innovative, and I think that's really cool. I think there's a lot of awesome.
See a need, fill a need.
See a need. I just really can. We just turn this episode into robots there and the back of our heads, just watching.
So
It's one of those things I live by, dude.
that guy's name, by the way, Charles Duryea of Springfield, Massachusetts. Patented
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know where that's at.
That's not a real place.
Okay, I don't know if they talked about him in the...
Yeah. He's the guy who patented it, at least.
Okay.
He got it on the ground floor.
Gasoline?
Yeah. He patented gasoline.
There it is.
Crazy. It's just so... I don't know.
One of the most interesting things to look at is how the American dream has changed from that boomer age to now, and economic trends, because I think those play a big role. I think the stress of the American dream being a monetary value now is because like money is access.
Money is comfort.
Yes. Well, it's comfort because of access. Paper money has no value to me. But what paper money can get me is what carries the value to me, which is why I think monetary success becomes a part of that American dream. Like, I have to make a certain amount of money to get those things that I've really wanted my entire life. And so, what is it now? I mean, besides inflation and all that other good stuff in the economy, which naturally changes, like, what would you say it is now that's changed from an economical structure from the 50s to now that's made money way more important than it used to be?
So I think actually when you were talking about that, it reminded me, one of the things I wanted to say was the connotation of it being an old school principle or an old school ideal, this American dream, is I think one of the things that, for whatever reason, put a negative connotation in my mouth. Like, that's the way that we used to think. But I also say that because growing up, I think I felt as though I saw a lot of people settling for get to this point and then you're done. Yes. And then you retire and then it's over and then that's all you need to do. And I think that was the biggest negative for the American dream for me, was that there's so much more to life than that. And my experiences only solidified that.
Yeah.
As I grew up and I got older and I experienced more things and I had great friendships and great opportunities to help people and just see a need, fill a need kind of deal. Yeah. Like, that shined so much brighter in my head than get your house, be settled, make sure you're ready for retirement.
You know, this actually, it reminds me of, so I didn't listen, I probably heard a quote somewhere growing up where some foreign guy, I don't know where he was from, but he was essentially observing American culture, and he was like, you grow up, you go to college, you work hard, and you like pretty much kill yourself to make money. You retire, you spend all that money to take care of yourself buying medicine so that you don't die and so that you're well. And I was like, I just observed that, and I'm like, I don't feel the need to like go and only make money and like have this pursuit. And that might go back to the reasons why I like monetary, like working just for money. It's odd, because if you do that, you just like drive yourself into an early grave. At least it's what it feels like.
Well, I feel like that was to speak from like the I guess the boomer side of this. It's like that's sort of the idea of being financially sound was something, I don't know, that they strived for because they're coming straight out the Great Depression.
Yeah,
these are
the adults
dirt
who grew
fucking
up poor.
Yeah. So they want to go, okay, I don't want to experience that ever again.
I don't want my kids to experience it.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
I'm going to work at this factory for my entire life until I get my 401k, whatever the fuck you want to call it, my retirement. And then we're set. We are taken care of. I can provide for my family. We can live comfortably, and we are not going to be like my parents were.
Right.
And so that for them, the American dream was like, all right, I'm financially sound. I can own a house. I can have a car. I can do all this shit. Like it's the nuclear family was ideal, and it was possible for almost everyone at that time.
Yeah.
So I think that was the main driving force behind that, which is working hard.
That's really interesting.
I think the reality too, in the shift of the vision from then to now, is how much more access to things that you have now. How much more stuff you want to buy now versus what was available in the 50s. How many more places you can
get a
go
car,
now
get a house
versus
back then, you know?
But now it's like, I want a car and a house and a jet so I can fly anywhere that I want to go, or a boat somewhere so I can go sailing for you.
Right,
like there's so many more things to have now.
Vacation home.
I think it makes monetary success such a large aspect of achieving the American
I think
dream.
monetary success is, I don't know, it's interesting to me because, of course, everyone wants to be set. Everyone wants to go, I'm good.
Don't have to worry.
I got 2 commas in my bank account. I'm chilling.
Yeah.
And, like, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, that's where I want to get. I want to work hard now. I want to get to a point where I can, like, be that way. But it's also, I think the view of it is skewed because of how comparative we are as a generation, where it's just like you look at everyone that has something different than you, and it's, I like that, and I like that, and I like that. The exposure to different things is crazy. So to scroll through Instagram and see something and go like, you know what, that would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And I feel like that is not a bad goal to work for that. But a lot of people see that, they go, I want that, and then they don't create a plan to get from A to B. It's sort of just, all right, I get good grades, I go to college, I get a job, and then I get that. And it's like, well, not really. Not just from doing that. Not just from getting a degree. You need to do something that you want to do. You need to do something that, ideally, because there's some people that are super passionate about being like social workers.
Yeah.
And the money it takes to get the degree is like bigger than your yearly income.
Yeah.
Just crazy. But like if that's what you're passionate about, that's what you're going to want to do.
Yeah.
So like ideally, you get a job, you go to school, you get a degree that's going to make more money than the debt you collected to get that degree,
Right.
and then you can start, making income and pay that off and get, whatever, you're financially sound. But a lot of people just go, I'm going to get a business degree. I'm going to get a communications degree. It's sort of just
The safe.
the safe.
It's the safe
Not
route.
even safe, but just like
The
broad.
seemingly safe. It gives you
It
more options.
It's something
covers
that doesn't
everything, and I can
lock
do,
you in
but
a single area.
But it's sort of like, it's not even like being a jack of all trades. It's sort of just being like, I'm gonna, what is it? You aim low, you're gonna hit low, or like whatever. Aim small, you're gonna miss small. I don't know. I forget what it was. Whatever that phrase is, but like you're casting a large net. You're not gonna.
Tim just told me that while
What
I
is
was at
it?
work with him. Aim small, miss small.
Yeah, aim small, miss small.
Oh my gosh, but he just told me what it's from. And it's a movie.
Oh, okay. Either way,
I'll think of it.
yeah, we'll remember it at some point. Either way, it's you're not gonna hit a lot. You're not gonna get a lot. If every other person has a business degree, it's worthless. It doesn't mean anything. You can hire anybody, and they're not all gonna be the same. So I don't know. I feel like the American dream now is probably the same it was then, but people want to attain it differently.
The craziest thing to me in this whole process is the convergence of generations. We don't just have, older generation and millennials.
Yeah.
We now have Gen Z coming up, and it's this huge convergence of like, hey, this is still looming from when it's kind of washing away, but it's still there from the past. And then, you have millennials who are coming in and going, we've started to try and kind of like dig our trenches and stick our flags on the ground and come up with our ideals and make them known. And then Gen Z's going, I don't even know what to think about all this.
Yeah.
You guys have all that. You guys are trying to do all this. And then
I'm here.
I'm here, I'm watching. I'm watching
Yeah.
what you guys are doing and I'm forming my opinions, and I disagree with some and I agree some and I think this
Yeah.
and I think that. And I think there's so much idealism going around.
Yeah.
Well, it's
That
such
it gets
it is
lost.
such an
It's-
interesting standpoint because the way the media, I don't know, not the media, I guess the social stigma around millennial and boomer is that they're just opposite.
Yeah,
They just do not agree.
Sure.
Do not mesh well, like just total opposite ideals. And I don't know if that's entirely the case, but it's such an interesting spot to be in for Gen Z to go, you know,
third party.
you're 100% this way.
Yeah.
You're 100% this way. I want to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the swing from, and so my mom, for example, grew up with 6 brothers and sisters, grew up in a very strict household, and I won't get into all that because it's a very intense story. But you see often when someone grows up in an intense environment, the drastic shift in their parenting style, right? My mom was very loving, very supportive, very encouraging, very like hands-on. You can do whatever you want to do. You're gonna have to work your ass off for it, but you can do
You
it.
can do it, yeah.
And I'm right here to support you, and I love you unconditionally, and you need to know that above all else. And it's great, it's wonderful, but you in those drastic shifts. I mean, one of the biggest things I learned from Chris Darley, shout out Chick-fil-A managing time, was there's a balance to everything. You can't go from all I do is relax all day because that's what I prioritize, and I think everyone should just be relaxed all the time, versus I don't relax ever.
Yeah.
I just work my ass off all the time, and I stress myself out, and I kill myself to make sure that I'm successful, blah, 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 blah. There's a balance in between there, and the same with everything. So for boomers, millennials, Gen Z, there's this balance that I think, for me, I want us to try and find. And this is where all of our talks, all of our communication across the table is this idea that we can start having the conversations that matter so that as different generations, we can come together and have these important conversations to figure out what are the balance of all these ideals we have, and how can we make this American dream actually what it is when it says the ideal.
Yeah.
You know, because I definitely don't feel that it's the ideal right now.
No, not at all.
Not even close.
Right.
This idea that everyone that comes in has equal opportunity, I think it's...
Well, especially now
That's
we've moved
tricky, but-
into ever since.
Well, it's not even everyone that comes in anymore. It's like everyone that's born here,
Yeah.
everyone that's from here. If you're not, then you're lesser. And
Well-
that's a big thing that I don't understand, because it's like
Yeah. Well, then,
it's like
well,
you did nothing
Well, there was a
to
You were
to-
just born
you were just
here.
born
Yeah.
here.
there was a
What did you do to specifically to deserve this more than somebody else? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
You won the lottery,
Literally.
but
Yeah.
that's about it.
When
So
you
to-
look, it's interesting to look statistically. Occupy Wall Street, when that whole thing went down, there was a massive shift because what Occupy Wall Street did was completely eradicate the class structure. We went from lower class, middle class, upper middle class, upper class to just there's the 1%, here's the rest of us. And I think that created a panic that nobody was really ready for. It was like, well, shit, it doesn't matter. I'm basically lower class. People in middle class were like, I'm basically lower class. I'm not making enough money. I can't sustain. I can't do this. And I think that was a shift. That was a moment where money became, I would say that's where money, it's not that money has not been important, but I would say that's where it became like the thing, period. And so when we talk about conversations, because what I want to jump into is like looking at the American dream. It's how do you make it happen? How do you make it in America? Kind of getting into our topic. If this is the dream, if this is the goal that we have, what is the proper route to take to get there? Is there a proper route? Are there multiple routes to take to get there? And what are the challenges that you have to overcome in the process? One of the biggest ones in having that conversation about like Occupy Wall Street is like, if you don't already have access to money, your journey has already become 1,000 times harder
Yeah.
than just about anybody else's who has already
Well,
won that lottery.
I was
Who's
gonna say,
already been born into that access.
Look at the drastic difference between Billy, who's born into a family that is massively wealthy, versus Susan, who grew up with nothing. Susan has the choice to make. Do I work my ass off to help my future generations have a better life?
Yeah.
Or do I just kind of realize that I'm kind of screwed? Because I don't really get to reap the benefits here.
Yeah.
Versus Billy, who's reaping the benefits now.
Well, here's what's
who's born
really
in.
here's what's really interesting about that is the perspective of what success would look like for Billy versus for Susan.
Well, because
Because
their perspectives are
they're
already,
very
totally
different.
different.
Like,
because
Billy's-
his perspective is Susan is
Is
digging himself out of
Out
a
of a
hole.
hole, yeah.
Billy is starting at ground level, trying to build
Right.
up.
And so for Billy's like success looks like this mansion and everything that I'm used to having. But I think for Susan, I think just getting out of the hole is a version of
is a
success
bit-
for
yeah.
Susan.
Well, that's where
is
you-
like
yeah.
stability is their version of success. They've made it because
Yeah.
they've reached a point of
But you're
stability coming out of a
already-
place of being unstable.
You're all okay. So this also takes into account. So, I'm gonna tread on this lightly. I don't want to down talk anybody. I don't want to bring anybody down. But okay, so you're in the hole. Your family is in the hole. You know, you're not financially stable. Your parents maybe working 2 jobs each. All that stuff. The thing is the knowledge of how to like be smart with money, and this is not to say everyone in the hole is not smart with money.
Right.
This is not at all saying, well, everyone that has this issue is just not good with money. That's not the case at all. But statistically, if your parents are good with money and like you have, you know, you're born in Billy's situation where you're at ground level and you can only go up, you are going to be taught how to spend your money correctly and how to do X, Y, and Z
Because your parents have
because
already
your
done
parents
it.
know.
Yeah.
If you're in the hole, not only do you have to dig yourself out of that hole, you have to essentially teach yourself how to get out of that hole and then execute. It's not something that you necessarily are going to just be taught.
Yeah, you don't have someone who's
don't have
learned
someone-
through trial and error.
Exactly. You don't have someone mentoring you and teaching you how to do that 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Whatever the statistic is, you are not,
100% of the time.
exactly. Yeah, I'm just coming
We
up
made
with
jokes
shit.
about statistics beforehand.
Yeah.
It's not going to make any sense to anyone watching or listening. There's no contextual
But
clues.
the point is like you need the access to the like all statistics aside, like income here, comparing the two. It's not just all right now execute and then you'll be at the same level. It's you need to go out of your way to learn how
Yeah.
to do this and then execute upon that.
Yeah.
So it's you're more behind the 8 ball than statistics will show.
Yeah.
It's not just you are from a low income
There's
house. It is
so many different
knowledge to that.
factors
Yeah.
that go into this whole process of the random chance that you're born wherever you're born.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And it's the equal opportunity is there in the sense that theoretically, ideally, everyone has access to the same type of knowledge.
Yes.
Levels different for sure. Like, if I'm born into a low income family, I'm not going to have access to the education, the tutors, blah blah. Like that you might have if you're in a more wealthy family.
Yes.
The information can be found, especially with the internet available,
Mm-hmm.
and like if you are going to a school that has a computer that has internet, that like the information is there.
Yes.
The amount of work that you have to do to get that information is different.
It's different. Yes.
So
And-
the idea that there's equal opportunity in the sense that you can work your ass off to make it in America, I think, is somewhat true. It's hard to fight against that. This place exists, and enough people are proud enough of that fact that it's pushed in a little bit. But
well, it's possible, and it's man, there's a lot of it is possible, just like flat out you can do it. the levels of difficulty based on where you're from, what you want to do, all that stuff is totally different.
Yeah.
And access to knowledge, all that stuff, and then it gets into education and how we look at education is right now is standardized tests. Mm-hmm. It's just kids take this test, take this test, take this test, take this test, take this test. When it could be a leveling tool. It could just be we could bring everyone
up to the
same level, and we could teach them what's actually important.
That's what I was
But
just going to
nothing
speak to.
about the education system has changed since the boomers, and it's not on them. This is not.
Well, it's.
I'm not. I hate to throw that word around because it has a negative connotation, but it's just. It's been the same, and you're learning the same things.
It's interesting to have the conversation of Susan having to learn and having to get more knowledge in order to dig herself out of the hole to be to the level of equal playing field, and then you think about that in an educational stance. Mm-hmm. Billy's got way better education. He doesn't need it near as bad as Susan does.
Exactly.
But he's always got the top notch, and Susan has always got the scraps and the leftovers, and so it's interesting to see. We know and understand this challenge, and like you said, there's nothing that's being done to lower that gap. If anything, a lower income area should have the number one school because it's the only way you're going to bring that area up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. An area that has already attained a certain level of success doesn't need $1 billion dumped into its school. Mm-hmm. That area that hasn't achieved that yet, that you're trying to build up, that's who needs all the money poured in.
Well, that's where, if you look at education, man, this whole concept, and we did a lost episode on education, for the record. And it was probably one of my favorite episodes that we did. And we absolutely need to re-record it. Mm-hmm. There's too much to talk about as far as education.
I know. I'd love to talk
It's referenced so many times with you being here, and you have no idea. For me, if we're moving in a direction with education that supports this ideal American dream, then there is a uniform school implemented in every place that everyone has access to. It is, in the education episode, we talked about smaller class sizes, more personalized rubrics, and all this really great stuff that I think if school was not. I went to Whitfield, and then there was Campbell High School, and then there's all these different schools. If it was just school, that's what it's called. It's called school.
And you went to the nearest one.
You went to the nearest school. There is no name for school because it's just school, and everyone goes to school. And it's you don't have to worry about XYZ because everyone's getting that same access to education. I think maybe college is where you can specialize and offer higher levels.
That 100%, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
High school should 100% be
elementary,
experiment.
middle, and high.
Growing up. Growing up should be experiment. Do different things. Try different classes. Learn everything that you want to learn. Because
you just gotta learn how to make learning fun.
Well,
because,
it's not even
because when you're just filling in bubbles. There's nothing fun about that.
Well, here's what's interesting.
But it's not even making math exciting. Because there's just some kids, myself, that fucking hate it. And it doesn't compute with my brain. Just doesn't work. Well, but if I wanted with all of my heart to learn math, I could.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you set your mind to something, you can do it. But the only reason behind learning math is you have to take this class. And I don't fucking want to do it. Well, if you give the kid an opportunity to learn something that he wants to learn, then
you make everything elective. Electives were I don't know if this is how it is in most schools, but electives, you had your core classes and then you have your electives, and you could choose your electives.
Exactly.
If I wanted to be in an orchestra, I could do that. If I wanted to be in chorus or band, I could do that. And then
electives were always the art.
The best ones. Yes, exactly. You take the creative class. You take the different classes. I remember I had. Okay, sorry, not to cut you off, but there should be core classes. There should be things that everyone English, history, all that stuff. But it should be more, whatever. Math should not be required. That a kid, every 18-year-old doesn't need to know how to do
I
calculus.
think the level
Well,
at
you don't
which they push
calculus
math,
isn't-
I agree with
is-
you.
Yeah,
But
I
like
mean-
a core class that you're like
a
going
core
into
class
like
where it's like, well, you learn to do
algebra,
finances.
but
Not
I'm
even
like-
algebra, but just like the stuff that you can apply.
So here's
to
what
life.
I say is one of the kind of the reasonings that math is pushed so hard is it creates critical thinking within kids, and I think to a certain degree, yes, it does, absolutely
To a certain degree.
to a certain degree.
Yeah, but you can make the class
I
critical
think-
thinking and do like
That's what I'm saying.
hypotheticals.
I think what really could happen and could work, and I don't know how much time we need to spend on this
No,
this
no, it's-
in particular in the American Dream, but I think if you created again across the board, these are the 20 classes that every kid needs to take throughout elementary all the way to high school to get the best range of different like ways to think, different things to learn, like, and then from there they are building out and working with
And
like
figuring out what they wanna
advisors
do.
and their parents or people that are close, like to figure out what they want to do.
And here's the reality is not that that's not being done. When you go to the $100,000 a year scholarship
Right.
private schools, that is exactly their system. They're not running standardized tests with their students to have bubble in answers. Like, no, they have these specialty programs like this that you can go from preschool all the way to graduation of high school in some of these privatized schools where they have created a system in such a way that you have the option to learn what you want to do, to better develop skills beyond just knowing how to add, subtract, and multiply.
Well,
like,
That's why here, like, I went to public school, but I went to a uber wealthy area public school. So like, I guess almost whatever you want to call it. It was essentially it was great.
So I went to public school, but it was charter school, which I
Okay,
guess is
yeah.
a little bit different. So
It was not a charter school, but I've heard
they had a little bit more freedom, I guess.
Yeah. But my junior and especially my senior year were like a blast because my freshman and sophomore year, junior year even sucked too because I failed algebra 2 junior year. But I got all of my required stuff out of the way, and then I started not fucking around, but taking stuff that I was interested in.
Yeah.
I never in a million years would I think I would end up in an engineering graphics class. But I took that as my math credit my senior year, and it was one of my favorite classes ever. CAD systems, I would have never played around with. The only reason I took it is because I love the teacher. Teacher's an awesome guy, stone touch. But I took it, and it just worked with my brain. It just clicked. He gave us the stuff to do. He gave us everyone got a binder, and was like, this is what you have to do for the semester. I tore through it.
yeah.
Absolutely demolished it. I was done. And then my girlfriend at the time was also in the class, and she hated it, did not work with her brain, like just did not compute. And she's like a straight A student, so it was the one thing where I like excelled better than her. I did her whole thing. And then they were remodeling the school. And I still had time in the semester. So they were like, all right, modify the original blueprints of our school to the new, what we added onto the building. So I made the additions and all that stuff. And it all worked with my brain. And then so there was engineering graphics 1 was first semester. And then I took part 2 second semester. Literally everybody dropped. It was me and like 4 other kids. And I fucking loved it. It was amazing. And again, never in a million years would I have taken that class if I didn't like the teacher. But I just decided, you know what? Why not? And I loved it. It's one of my favorite classes. I still would love to work with CAD systems. And it's just, that's what it should be. It should be playing around and experimenting with classes.
So go back to the conversation of like making it in America.
Yes.
How essential is formal education to making it in America? Can you do it? Can you make it in America outside of formal education?
Yes. And I think it's especially prevalent now.
It's
Because I think
it's still a lot harder.
it's a lot harder, but I also think because people from millennial and Gen Z are understanding of not having a degree. Because before it was, you don't have a degree. Like, you're immediately out of the running. Now it's talent. It's personality. It's can I work with this person?
It's becoming more prevalent.
It's becoming more based around can you do the job over do you have XYZ checked on your...
I think more people are willing to come in to this idea of if I work hard enough at what I want to do,
Yes.
I can make it happen.
Yep.
And I think like what we're doing right here. I mean, this is not, we're not getting paid for this.
No.
This is us coming in and going, I want to get paid for this. I
Yeah.
want to get to the point where this becomes what I do more frequently. And
Hint, hint, listeners.
listen, subscribe. No, but like,
Please share. Yeah, telling the people listening to subscribe is like you're preaching to the choir. We need you to share. We need you to share the videos.
yes,
So
sure,
everyone-
definitely-
more people can see them.
Share and subscribe. It's a both.
Yes,
and.
it's a both.
But no, I think the idea, that idea is more prevalent, is more widely accepted across our generation and your generation, like, that says, if I want to go that route, I can. I'm going to have to work my ass off,
Yes.
but I can go that route.
Yes.
Whereas, like, I was just telling Tim, who was on the last episode, if you don't know, my older brother, that I felt disappointed in our dad in one area. And it's that he made movies with his friends when he was younger. And they're awful. And he'll admit that, but they're also incredible. Like, I really want to go rewatch them, thinking about it right now. But I think that was something that he really loved doing. But because it didn't make enough money, it was like, oh, well, I can't do that anymore. I have to focus on, I have a family now, so on and so forth. Like, I have to make a certain amount of money, and moving forward, I have to be on a path that makes a certain amount of money.
Yes.
And I have to start that process now, and I need XYZ to do it.
I think that's the biggest disconnect between the boomer generation and the millennial generation is that I can understand why, the typical, headline, the boomers, I don't know, whatever, the typical boomer that is upset with millennials is maybe not articulated well, but I think they're upset because their whole lives was necessity.
Yeah.
And ours now, because of that, we have the opportunity to
Because
go
of that.
what I want to
Yes.
do. And the big disconnect is, well, I want to do this. And they're like, well, you can't just do what you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now we can. So the big disconnect is not understanding each other there. It's like, yes, you worked in a factory your whole life, you retired, and now you're good. And you did that, and now it's provided the opportunity where not only can I think about what's going to provide, I can do a step above that, which is, what do I want to do?
Right.
And I can think about that. And I think that's the frustration between the two, is that two different opportunities for two different generations.
Yeah.
I think that's the big...
You know what it boils down to? Damn it, have conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand each other.
Oh, man.
Learn to realize that it is different. We are different. The
Yeah.
way that we view things are different. And ironically enough, we view things differently because you afforded us the opportunity to do so.
Yes.
And if we have those conversations and come to an understanding, there's so much to learn from the hard work, required work that the older generations went through. Like because that is the type of work ethic we need to make our dreams happen.
Oh, right.
I would-
Because they started when they were like
I would-
16 working in a factory.
I would 100%.
You hire kids because their hands can fit into like different parts of the machinery that adults can't.
Right,
It's like, it's
sure.
crazy what
I
they
would
had
argue
to do.
that is one of the struggles of the modern generation.
Yeah.
Is that we are lacking in that perspective. It's not that it's
Oh,
not
work
present.
ethic?
Yeah.
100%.
But I think we are really lacking in that. Because, and a lot of it has to do with the fact of like that extreme pendulum swing. It's like, oh, I can just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's still work involved in you doing whatever you want.
Well, I don't
You
think it
still
was
have to-
taught
have
because
to
here's
press that.
the thing was, okay, so if I can break it down, it's the boomers it was just work your ass off. Mm-hmm. And then they had kids, which are, I guess, our parents. And their generation it's not, obviously not quite millennial, but it's like, all right, work hard, go to college. Because, boomers get this factory job.
I think
XYZ.
Gen X?
Yes, and
Gen
I
X
think
is
that's
the parents where
that
it's
is
like-
the first, one of the first bigger generations where college became a big push.
Exactly.
Is
So
where that
they
happened.
went to college and then, work hard,
Because
go to college, do this.
If we're terming it boomer worked out of necessity
Yep.
to afford Gen X the opportunity to not have to do what they did.
To go to college.
So that it's like, hey, go to college so you don't have to do what I did.
And then that,
They were forced into college, so
Yes.
millennials were, hey, you can do whatever you want. If
I
you work
see,
hard enough.
I
that's
don't know.
what I
think-
got. That's what's interesting.
Well, okay, yes, but that's
I got more of my
But I
dad
think even
pushed
even-
for college. My
even
mom
the-
was, you can do whatever you want.
I still think the three of us here are okay. I think you guys are near the tail end of millennial because millennial now is like what 20 to 30,
It's 20. It's 25 to 45.
25 to 45.
Yeah.
My mom,
So we're in like the middle.
could be my mom. My mom's just on the other side of millennial. She's Gen X, and I agree that what we got was what I got at least was do whatever you want. You know, follow your dreams, do it, and like I could elaborate on that so much more because I'm so thankful for it. But I think millennials were pushed the hardest to go to college because I think it was so boomer, worked their whole lives, and then so then afforded their kids to be able to go, hey, go to college.
Well,
and then they were like, all right, I went to college. You go to college now.
Because if you think about
and then now it's getting to the point where it's like, if you don't want to, don't do it.
Well, it made the most sense, right? For them to get forced into college and then see what the opportunities that college afforded. Absolutely.
Yeah, but
my
the
children
thing
are
is-
going to college.
The thing is,
because
the
look what it
system
got me.
changed, though.
Right.
Yes, but the ideals didn't. That's the thing.
Yes.
So the big thing that is passed down is go to college, go to college, go to college, and now it's getting to the point where it's like, go to trade school. Maybe don't go to college.
Yeah.
Do this. Do X. Do whatever you want, but do what you want.
Yeah.
And,
And it speaks to your point that the American dream has not caught up with the modern age. It hasn't. In a way, it's kind of still stuck in that zone where it worked. Like the way that we originally viewed it and its function worked then, but it hasn't
Get
caught
to
up.
Point X.
Yeah.
Versus now there's a million different
different
points.
points that you can go
Yeah.
to, and we haven't necessarily updated that viewpoint to where it understands the type of access that we have
and
now.
God, man, it all comes back to the same fucking thing. Have a damn conversation.
Yeah.
Like if people are having this conversation, then it goes, hey, this doesn't match what it used to be. Like
Yeah.
things have changed, things have evolved. Let's learn from each other. And it's why this podcast matters. And like I know that sounds like I'm trying to sell, but truthfully,
Yeah.
The whole
across the
point-
table, sit across the table, sit with the hard conversations and with the people you disagree with, and don't treat them like a scumbag because you disagree with them. If they're a scumbag, they're a scumbag. That's a
But
whole
being able to
person. But
discern
an
it, yeah.
opinion is an opinion, and
Yeah.
people can have different opinions, and having those different opinions is what makes us better.
Yeah.
It's what challenges you to think about your opinion and why it matters.
Well, that's again to touch back on education. Like critical communication skills are not taught. It's just sort of, hey, you're not. I learned 0% of my communication skills through like group projects.
Communications in high school has always been an elective. I have never seen it as a
Well,
core
it's
class.
crazy
Yeah.
because I had teachers that prioritize communication.
Yes.
And that, like, in different classes.
Yeah.
So my English class, Shively, I'm going to shout you out as many times as I can on
Yes.
this friggin' podcast.
Welcome.
Shively taught our senior English class, and the entire class was set up in a round table.
Oh, nice.
One giant round table. And the entire class was just read and talk about all the stuff that you're reading about. The hard themes, the hard topics, the fun topics, like have fun, but also like challenge each other. I will never forget that class. Like I did not do my homework. Sorry, Shively. But like I never read, but I loved coming to class.
Yes.
I was like, I would just sit and wait and go, oh, that's what the theme is? There's a point, there's a point, there's a point. Okay, wait. That doesn't make sense for here. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't even need to relate it to the characters because it was such good conversation.
100%. So in high school, I did the TV broadcast class. Every year every semester I was in school. But freshman year, you had to take the elective prereq, which was communications. So I took communications with the teacher. She also taught that. She did the broadcast. So I had her every semester of high school. Mrs. Hammersmith, shout out Mrs. Hammersmith. She's the reason I'm where I'm at. She was a fantastic teacher. Love her to death. And in my communications class, she taught us like just basic social things that I still live by today. One of my favorites that I still think of her every single time I do it. She gave a hypothetical situation. She was like, "You're at the grocery store. You're pushing your cart down the aisle, and you see someone you know down there. Now, what everybody does is they ignore it. And you know what happens when you ignore it? You run into them in every succeeding aisle. And then it's still awkward. What you do is you go, you say, hi, how you doing? You interact in the first aisle, you see him, knock it
Never
out,
see him again.
and you don't have to talk to him again. You can bump into him in every other aisle, doesn't matter. You already knocked it out. Get rid of that stress right out of the way.
Genius.
It makes sense
And
every time.
There's the hypothetical for the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
If I come up with one.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You either go, which way is she or he going? I'm going to go the opposite
Opposite
direction.
way. And then
and
it's
that's
so
just
much more
interesting.
brain power to
You
avoid that.
still end up running into it.
And you still end up running into him, and then you don't get what you want, and then you're there for an hour and,
And
a half.
that's the interesting about that, though, because I think the modern era is not conducive to that form of communication at all. Because the modern era is always about, through technology, you're communicating back and forth, but there's not, I wouldn't say there's none, but there's not as many social interactions and situations that you find yourself in.
Well, exactly,
Or
which is
even more to the point, now you use technology to set up your social interactions to be a certain way. Like, hey, we're all going to go meet up at this point,
Yeah.
and then we're going to socialize. Like,
The big thing, I think the biggest issue, or the biggest thing that, okay, so instead of us influencing technology, I think technology has influenced us in the way that we communicate, mostly by opinions. So I think the biggest thing is that social media has influenced us to throw out an opinion, and then that's it. There's no disputing it. There's no conversation.
Well, you don't
It's-
have
that
to-
is-
it's,
Yeah, you don't
I
have to
believe
come
this.
back.
You can ignore things if you want because
Yeah.
you just like keep scrolling or you just. That's such a good point.
The biggest
That's such
thing,
a good point.
The biggest thing is that it is totally removed the need for conversation on
Yeah.
topics or on opinions. What you could do, and it's not to say social media is totally to blame for that.
No.
People yell shit and then you leave a room.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, I think this, and then you leave.
it's
not-
a lot harder
harder
to do
to
that.
there's a few more
Basically-
social ramifications for doing
Basically,
that.
but I don't know,
every
but
time
that's-
you post online, your
Yeah.
address gets posted with it.
Pretty much.
No, what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying
Your
now?
physical no. This is how you solve it.
Yeah.
Every time you
my
post,
God.
your physical address
Are we
gets
going
posted
satire
with
on
it.
this?
No,
saying.
he's saying
Let's do
that's,
it.
I'm just saying. And then
That's
you're
the-
solved
that's the
because
solution.
if someone
at your house.
thinks you're an asshole, they come to your house and they go, you want to confront that? You want?
No, but
I'm right here now.
That's and it all leads back into what you've been saying.
More
is
people
like,
would
have the
die.
conversation.
So many people would die. Well, enough people would die, and then it would be fixed because people would stop being assholes because they'd be like, I'm going to get killed.
Well, it wouldn't
I'm
fix
gonna
it.
get
People
murdered.
would still think that. It just wouldn't be expressed.
Or they
and
would
then there's less
encrypt, and then there's
conversation.
coders, and then
Yeah. It's
The
Smart
point,
people.
but it all leads back
smart
into
people.
talk about it. It all leads back into
it's-
have the conversation.
Just have the conversation.
The biggest disconnect there is like you can't just throw your opinion at a wall.
Well, you,
and then it sticks.
you
Well-
learn so much more from other people.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't
Jeez.
ever learn if, and it's, I think the abrasiveness
Yeah.
that, especially you're talking about that we're moving into where people don't really have the skill as much. Like
Yeah.
it's not practiced
Yeah.
or honed. But so that awkwardness and that abrasiveness is something that we want to avoid because we want to live comfortably.
Yeah.
But then we want to speak out about
Well-
the things we're passionate about. Or it's like
But it's ju-
you
well,
learn
speaking out
so
is
much
just-
more
yeah.
if you have the
Here's
conversation.
what's extremely interesting when you relate communication to how to make it. The most successful people in the world all have a common trait. They seem to know everybody. If you've ever been around somebody who's really successful,
all
it's
about
like,
who you know.
man,
Yeah.
this guy knows this guy, this guy, this guy, this
Ah,
guy. Constant communication.
Best piece of advice that I've ever gotten is not. I think this was okay. I know it was when I was in LA for my school's industry trip because we went and like.
Is that when you saw the movie that we were all the Guardians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's when I saw that. Just unfortunate.
It's fantastic.
I just listened to that again. It was great.
Oh man, when,
You
when,
were
what
just,
did I say?
think,
I
was
went
that
off
on
about it.
movies? And you were just like,
yeah.
you were like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2
you
was
were on
terrible.
that trip.
And we all just went,
Saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Jack Black in the theater.
With
and
Jack
still
Black in the
didn't
theater,
like
and I
it.
still hated it.
that was
Yeah.
such a tangent. Go
But
ahead.
no, but I totally get it.
You were there.
The best piece of advice I ever got was it's not. So everyone says
all about
it's
who you
not
know.
what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And it's not that. The best advice I got, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah.
If you make the impression and they know you, and they go, all right, we need this job done. And I'm like, well, I think I know a guy that does that.
Yeah.
If they know you and you make the impression and they remember you, that is what gets you
Yeah,
in the door.
absolutely.
It's not, hey man, remember me? I met you at that meet and greet. Like,
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck, dude, I don't want to talk to you. But, it's just,
Yeah.
that's what it is. But if they know you and you make a good impression and you are a good person, then they'll remember that and they'll go, you know what? I think this guy does that.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling like,
That's a fantastic point.
and it also speaks to the point that like information is more valuable than money in a lot of ways, especially in the modern age. Like access to any form of information or like exclusive access to that information.
Oh, it's
Get you
crazy
places.
is your ability to wade through and choose the right choose to remember and apply the right information. Because that's really because access is so readily available that there's so much of us that have this to some degree.
Oh,
that just go, hold on, what did you want to know?
With that real quick? Yeah.
I got you right here. And
He was looking at his phone. If you're listening to the podcast and not watching the video,
thank you.
Yes,
Jacob.
we do have to talk to the radio people.
I was just thinking about that this
do
morning.
not see us.
This whole concept of balancing one episode for two mediums is really crazy.
It is.
The main thing you're missing out on if you just listen is hand gestures.
There's so many
so
answers.
many
It's
hand
just,
gestures.
the biggest thing is just, okay.
except for me, I'm like,
Jacob's
Just
so
chilling.
reserved.
Just chilling today.
well, I don't know. Y'all are just speaking to a lot of things that I already agree with. So
Well, what's really funny and that I noticed, I wasn't sure if I was going to say it or not, is you can tell when people are passionate on our podcast
Yeah.
because we're really good about passing the mic, if you will, over when it's something that like one person or two people are really passionate about. But when we're all passionate,
man.
it's like, wait, hold on. There's so much that needs
Yeah.
to be said.
It's
And
a-
this is one that I love that we're all passionate about.
Yeah.
Like there's not a moment
And
that's
it's-
spared.
It's one of those things where how could it not be? Because this is everything that we're trying to do. This is everything that we're trying to
It's the road
accomplish.
we're on. It's
So it just hits really, really close to home.
Yeah.
When we sit here and have the conversation of how to make it, it's looking at
Well, because it's reflecting on the path that
the
that
path
we're trying
that
to
we've
go
taken so
on.
far, and,
We're
and
go-
the path that we're trying to
and
where
what
we're
we've
trying to
learned
get
so
to.
far.
Yeah.
It's not do X, Y, Z, and you're there.
Yeah.
It's sort of just.
So it's like
this is what we're trying to do.
we don't just talk about these challenges. We've experienced them over.
It's
the past,
really
like,
funny to
5
me
years.
that going in, because I've been wanting to talk about the American Dream since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
It was like probably 2 to 3 episodes in. I was like, man, I want to talk about the American Dream because for me, I hated it. I was just like, I just want to go off. I just want to come in and just tear it down and just help everyone see that it's not what we need.
Yeah.
But then your definition kind of scrapped all that in like 1 second because it's like let's
It's a-
move towards
it's
that.
a beautiful dream.
Because the American Dream in my head, again, was portrayed as a certain level of success, and this is what everyone has to shoot for.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the American Dream was. You have to get here, and then if you get there, that's the American Dream. But if the American Dream is everyone has equal opportunity, yes, let's revise that. Let's make sure we're revising how we live and how we communicate and the ways in which the paths that we're going and how we're taking those paths to make that more of a reality.
Yeah.
All schools should just be called school,
Seriously. Yeah.
and there should be lots of schools, and they should be fun places that you go in.
It's
they should be fun places.
It's
I think
always-
that's one of the biggest crimes that we.
it's always extremely uncomfortable for me
Education podcast.
to see somebody create a brand new prison and see a school 5 blocks down that hasn't been
Dude,
touched
there
in
was
10
a
years.
school
Like,
that was a prison.
Yeah.
It literally was a prison, and it
it's-
got reformed into a school. and you're
it-
just like, this
Feels the
is,
same.
yeah.
A lot of the times.
It
And-
really felt like
yeah.
dude, high school for school. Okay, I have fond memories of high school because of this is another thing my communications teacher absolutely nailed. Your last semester of high school is how you will remember all of
all
it.
of it. Yep.
If you had a great last semester of high school, you will remember school very fondly. If you had a very shit last semester, you're gonna reflect on it, and no matter how good the rest of it was, you're gonna go fucking hate it.
Yeah.
But so I have fond memories because of the
Last
last
semester.
year of high school. Everything up till then, like from not having recess anymore to senior year, sucked.
Let's just change the entire
let's
podcast.
address the real issue though. Like,
What happened in nap class too?
what happened to that,
Dude.
bro? Do you know how
I
great it
miss
was to
that
walk
class.
into kindergarten, get taught for 2 hours, and be like, okay, we're gonna have a snack. Now sleep for an hour. Holy shit.
So
That's incredible.
That's what
I will
I
tell
knew.
you.
That is when I found out that I had insomnia. 'Cause I never
Slept in nap class?
during nap time.
that time.
Dude, not
Look.
one time.
I don't know if you guys have had any experience with something like this, but working with like kids in church, going in and having like I was working with fourth graders, so we didn't do like nap time, but going into a place as an older person and experiencing snack time again that you get to partake in was like
Bro,
the
it's a
most.
treat. It's a treat because you know and understand the level of excitement that is in those fourth graders
This
right
is
now.
built into this time because we just eat snacks that we love. I ate goldfish every day, every
I
Sunday.
love goldfish, dude. I will, dude. I remember, small tangent, but I remember I was at work back home in Michigan, and I had bought the massive milk carton of goldfish, and I was on break, and the break room was just packed, and I'm just digging into it, just eating goldfish, and they're like, "You like goldfish?" I was like, "It was on sale."
It was on sale.
Mouthful of
on
goldfish.
sale.
But it's so. But I fucking love goldfish. Okay, okay, fourth grade. Oh, my favorite, the giddiness of just being excited for snack time, just exponential. My sister. I was talking to my sister the other day, who's 8. And I don't know. I was just on the phone with her, and I was like, "Where's mom?" She's like, "Oh, she's at the store. We're in charge of bringing snack after soccer practice today." And I was like, "Fuck yes, dude!" Like you'd get the juice box, and you'd get like Doritos, and it would just be, oh my god, you just played soccer. You played your heart out. You had no idea what routes you were running. You're just every kid's chasing the ball towards the goal, and that's it.
And then
you got a juice
you get
box.
to middle school, and they're like, "Hey,
Hey, none of this.
you're gonna have to train a lot harder for any of the sports that you
Oh,
play.
yeah, yep.
You don't get to really enjoy them anymore.
No.
You just work your ass off.
Unless you're competitive."
Also,
Like-
no chewing gum in my class. Okay,
Oh
you
my
can't
God.
have
Chewing gum?
snacks.
There's no snacks. Don't
You
bring
built
messes
the
into my school.
infrastructure
No-
for me
no
to eat at
calculators.
2 o'clock in the afternoon
set
every
this up.
day, and now I can't.
For 5 years, I've been doing this
why-
one way,
for
and then
more
you
than
just
5 years.
That's why
slap
lunch
that shit out
period
of
is
my
like
hand.
the best period of school.
Yes.
Because you're just like, oh, well, this is kind of reminiscent.
Yeah, and then you get
Slightly.
to sit at the you sit at the lunch table with all your friends, and then they go, "Hey, you know what? 2 lunches. You're by yourself. Everyone else is in the other lunch." Fuck
Also,
off.
dude?
to your point, school should be fun.
But yes. Oh yeah, totally. Thank
Another
you.
huge thing that I think is absolutely required. We talk about this in education, and when we record, we'll go into this further. But is that teachers, their job should be like walking into like Google, like an employee at Google. Like
Yes.
they should be treated. They are the people who are raising generations, like impacting them, leaving them with stories, making like things that are remembered.
Yes.
They should 100% be like the highest paid.
Which is so unfortunate because I have so many more negative memories of teachers.
Because
than
it's people
positive.
who were just like, this is all I could get.
do. Yeah.
Like someone told me I should be a teacher,
And
and
they're not uber passionate about going, you know what,
Exactly.
I want to make
Well, it's-
but if they were paid
And-
more and their job was better,
And here's what
and
I'll
it
say
was a
though.
more,
You'd filter.
Yeah.
Having been raised by a woman who's been teaching for 25 years,
Hey, okay.
that is passion.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
pure passion. And it's funny because I have this conversation with her frequently because she always asks about the business and how we're doing. She's like, what's one of your biggest motivators? She's like, I've watched you teach good kids, bad kids, struggling kids, all these kids for 25 years. I have watched you slog through some of the hardest moments of your entire life because you're passionate about achieving something. Like, you are my number one inspiration, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because the role is so important, you're not, and it's such a massive role.
Yeah.
You're not going to find so many people that are that passionate.
Yeah.
So if you increase the job to be a little bit better paid and a much better environment to work in, you're going to have an almost competitive nature to. I need to teach really well. I need to be the best teacher I can be.
I just had this conversation with Eric today. Competition drives quality. That is how
100%.
you drive
And
quality.
healthy
If
competition.
Healthy competition.
But
if you are
competition-
lacking in competition, whatever product you produce is never going to be at the
Never-
quality
No,
it could be.
Hala, my wife, is currently in the process to go be a teacher. And it's like the jokes are already coming. Like, not going to get paid.
Nope.
Like she shared with me a joke and it said, the doctors are going around saying, I only make $500,000 a year. And then the lawyers come up and they're like, or dentists come up and they're like, you make 500, I make 200. And the dentists come up and they're like, you make 200? Or lawyers come up and like, you make 200, I make 100. And then teachers go, wait.
You guys are getting paid.
You guys are getting paid?
Yeah.
And that's the joke about
Yeah.
teachers, and that
Yeah.
sucks. It's hilarious, but it sucks.
Yeah, it definitely does.
And it's like, my mom just within the past 10 years. So she's been teaching for ages. She was so funny story. She taught at a very small Catholic school, which is the school that I went to because she taught at it. So, I went there. It was right at the,
Yep.
why the
Makes
fuck
sense.
not? And it's one teacher per grade. So when I got to first grade, my mom was my teacher. It wasn't
Nice.
homeschooled, but that's just what it was. But she's been teaching for ages. And within the past, I want to say, almost maybe even 5 years, she got her master's. And even then, when you have your master's and you're required to be paid like more than just
the
regular,
average, yeah.
it's still not
Still
a lot.
not a lot of money. Yeah, because
It
my
is
mom,
not a
my
lot
mom did
of
the same
money.
thing. She's got 2 masters, and it still wasn't like a crazy bump.
No.
Even though it was like 6 years of additional
Of
school.
additional school to get your master's
Masters.
in a
Like
certain
this is called a
field.
master's. You have mastered this subject. Here's $2,000 more a year.
yes,
Right.
What the?
ridiculous.
I think so. I've heard mixed feelings on this, and so I have this view that we all kind of share right now, and then there's this other view that I've heard. I don't really know how to express it very well, but what it comes down to is I think that just don't even look at like how much they're paid,
Yeah.
because I don't know the numbers on that, so I can't say or speak for that. But what I do know is that a lot of teachers go above and beyond, and they spend money out of their own pocket. And I think that is one of the biggest shames, because like if you think about it, you still get a few months off a year, which is really nice. Like there are no other jobs really.
They don't get paid for that, right?
You do.
No,
You do?
You get paid.
They do.
Yeah, I know down here you definitely do.
Okay, well I didn't
my
know
mom's
that.
always been paid.
I've worked with in the restaurant business teachers who like in the summertime they take up more
That's what I
hours.
thought. I've known teachers to get jobs during the summer.
Really?
I guess to
Yeah.
make more money. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's
fair
because
enough.
it's like, what are they doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sure there's plenty of things that they're doing, but I just think that there's probably more stuff to go hand in hand with that, and I think that's some of the shames to kind of like, I don't know, it just like it wears you down.
Yeah.
Like, I can
because
just imagine.
Every teacher's classroom is decorated by stuff
By-
that's out of their pocket.
By their other pocket,
no,
yeah.
no classroom that you walk, if it's barren, if there's nothing in it,
Yeah.
that is what is funded.
Yeah,
Like,
because every single year I watched my mom, like she'd go to like Office Depot or like the teacher supply store and drop like $300-400
Yeah.
to decorate
To decorate
classroom,
the
and then
classroom.
throughout the year it might be another couple $100 because this kid doesn't have a backpack, this kid doesn't have a binder, this
Yep.
kid doesn't have pencils. Like it gets to the point where when you really break down their paycheck and what they're paid, they're not getting paid very much at all. Like
No.
not even off of the number that they're actually getting, because of how much gets reinvested
in
into their passion,
classroom.
into teaching the kids properly, into giving them a fair
It's a
shot.
lot. I mean, I'm sure you have you go in early, you're like the last month of
Yeah.
summer,
Yep.
and then help your mom
Yep.
decorate the classroom.
Yep.
That's what you do. I don't know. It's such an interesting job to do out of
And it's crazy. It's
Purely out of
it's
passion.
so crazy how everything walks back to education. Because when you have the conversation of how to make it in America, how the fuck is anybody supposed to learn how to do that if we don't have good teachers?
yeah.
You're not. You can't. It's that much harder.
Well,
Yeah.
and the big thing I want to move towards, I guess, like even in like the conversation about smaller class sizes is like mentoring. Nobody has a mentor anymore. No one has, you find someone significantly older than you in a career path, and then you learn from them. And they go, "This is what I did." That is the biggest
The
thing.
best.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
The most essential.
Dude, what
Well,
I would
it's-
kill to do is, when I'm, I don't know, however old, however many years in the film industry, like ideally, I've made several movies, all that shit. And then you take someone under your wing and you get to show them everything.
Everything.
That's
Yeah.
the best. I remember I went in and taught a couple classes when I was a senior in high school, like in the broadcast class, the TV broadcast. I've been doing it every semester of high school. So they were like, come in and teach the communications class that's like younger than you.
Yeah.
That when you were a freshman, you would like to know, and you teach them, and you go. It's just like
So what
so
I think
fun.
what I think is extremely difficult about maintaining that type of a perspective, like I think part of the reason you don't see so many mentors is A, people aren't leaving their jobs. Like people don't know how to quit and retire anymore. Like we just talked about that previous generation, they got to a point and they were done. People don't do that anymore. Yeah. And then the other aspect too is there's the unhealthy side of competition where I think you see a lack of mentors happening, where people are concerned, if I teach this guy to come up, he might be better than me. He might put me out of the job.
Or I might fall behind.
Yeah. I think that's more of it too. It's a big fear of falling behind the times. So I think that's why you don't see as much mentoring happen now. Not to say that it's non-existent, but I don't think there's as big of a push for it now as there used to be for that reason. Is everybody wants to keep ahead. Everybody wants to be at the forefront of what's going on.
Well, yeah, but if you want to be at the forefront, like the competition pushes you,
right.
And I understand like it needs to be healthy.
It leads back into someone's comfort.
Yeah.
It leads back into comfort. If you can control the pace that your career is moving at, that your career as a whole, not just yours, but oh shit, I touched the mic, so it's gonna. Sorry.
Tim did last one.
It's
it wasn't too bad.
But if you control the market for the job that you're in, then you can be as comfortable as you want.
Yeah.
You know, you can chill. It's like, all right, if everyone else isn't moving forward because I'm holding the knowledge back, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm
chilling.
It's mine. I'm relaxed.
But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know I haven't met anybody like that. If you sit down and talk to anybody that has a passion for something and you try hard enough, they'll open up to you.
Yeah.
They're going to talk to you about why they love what they're doing and everything that they've worked on and all that stuff. I've never met someone that's like, no, I'm not talking about that. No, I'm not, confidential.
I don't think it'll ever be somebody who's passionate.
Yeah.
But like a lot of those industries, there's a percentage of them that aren't there for the passion.
Yeah.
There's a percentage that's there for the check, for the monetary success. And this was the path you could do it. And that's not even to say that I think oftentimes passions are lost to monetary success. Because that's not even to say that those people who are just chasing money now were always all about money.
Right.
I think that at some point in time, if you do something, you do it well, and you invest a certain amount of time to it, there is some degree of passion that you have to it, period. You're not going to invest 10 years into something with no passion.
Well, yeah,
you're just not going to have that drive.
Jeff Bezos didn't sit at a desk that was literally a door turned on its side with 2x4s holding it up because he wanted to. Or
because he wanted money.
Because he wanted money.
Yeah.
That wasn't making him money until it did.
Yeah.
Until his vision paid off.
Yeah.
Which is, that's just, if you work hard towards a passion, what else are you supposed to do? What else are you supposed to do in life?
Yeah.
That's the big thing that confuses me about people that don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what else is there?
Yeah. And it's hard. And it goes back to the conversation of having a conversation that we've been having. It's just so
talk it out.
Fucking paramount for you to sit down and talk to your friends or your family or a random fucking stranger on the street about just like, hey, what do you like?
Right.
What do you want to do with your life? Like, I got asked that question consistently growing up from my aunts, my uncles, sisters, brothers, cousins, everybody. What do you want to do when you grow up? What are you interested in? What do you like? My answer to them was always architecture. Since I was 2. I was like, I want to be an architect. And then I got to college and I was like, well, fuck that. They make zero money. I'm going to be poor for 6 years. That's not feasible. We're going to switch to engineering. But that was it was always a question I was asked growing up. So it was always in the back of my head, like thinking about, okay, what do you want to do? What's your plan? What do you want to work towards? What do you want to achieve in life? And that's not to say that I've chased it successfully every single time. I fell into the comfort zone right after high school. It's like, got a job, making money, chilling. But that's still always something that's been in my brain. And so it has to be a conversation. You have to have a conversation. You just have to do it.
I think 90% of the brain power when going to like a family get-together is how am I going to avoid being asked, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? What do you want to do with your life? It's like, that's what the brain power goes towards rather than
just doing it.
Well, what do I want?
Well, because
what do I want to do?
aren't usually conversations. Those are small talk. And the family conversations are always, what do you want to do with your life? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay.
That's it.
And it's not
It's not the
valuable.
actual
It doesn't
conversation.
matter to me. I don't
really
care
goes
about
Back
that-
into my hatred for small talk.
Oh my gosh, I don't
Yeah.
care about you wanting to just be updated about what I'm doing.
Yes,
Like,
I want to
really
talk.
dig into why
Yeah.
you care about the update. If all you care about is a status, like,
Right.
are you good?
My-
Are you
my
bad? Are
nephew's
you
doing
sick? Are
this.
you
Right.
healthy? Are you?
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a question of like, do you have a girlfriend? It's like, oh, like, what's your new girlfriend like? Like,
How
what
did
do
you meet?
How
Like,
did you guys meet?
why do
What
you
is-
guys
what's
like each other?
interesting?
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
are you
like-
interested in her? Like, depth of
Do
conversation.
you want to marry
What
her?
do they do?
Do you want to marry them?
What
Like,
do they like?
yeah, absolutely. And then it's such a more interesting conversation. And if the person who initiated the conversation with one of those normally dumb questions is able to provide you with a perspective on that that is
Yes.
interesting or challenging,
Yeah.
then that matters.
Well,
We
again,
also-
that brings in the divide between generations. It's like
Yeah.
the stigma is not. The stigma is like to just keep it like skin deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like don't talk deep with a relative or
Yeah.
like. When's the last time you sat down with your grandparents and like talked to them?
Yeah. Really had a
Or
conversation.
Really had a conversation. It's just
One of the best moments that I would really say of my life was I grew up with a dad who didn't talk, very surface level, very hardworking, very loving, very great dad. Love you, Dad. But didn't talk because his parents never really talked to him. There was never really a conversation of like meaningful conversation. It was just the expectation of do what is expected of you.
Yeah.
And he fell into that and he said, "Oh, I don't get talked to because I'm doing well." Like he told me that one day. He said, my parents never really talked to me, and I always assumed that was a good thing. It
Yeah.
meant that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing.
yeah.
And that's very interesting to me because I'm very opposite. But my papaw, before he got sick, before he got Alzheimer's, I, for whatever reason, decided to make it a point to share a book that I was writing with him. And I got to hear about how he met my mamaw, and I got to hear about like some of the things that kind of like made him as he grew up. And it is something that is more valuable than most things in my life. Like that memory and that information, like it's literally about to bring me to tears because it's like that mattered and it was an intentional choice. And I was nervous about it. Like I remember going in and being like, I'm going to show this book. And it was about someone that grew up on a farm, like the beginning of it. And he literally grew up on a farm type deal. Like this man, like, and I was so nervous for him to just be like, well, this is dumb and walk
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But I think through his life, like as he had gotten older, he had seen the value of making connections with people. And because the family expectation was, we don't really talk. We're
Yeah.
surface level, we love each other, but we don't really get deep.
Yeah.
I don't think that anything was ever initiated, but once it was, I wouldn't have that memory if I didn't. You know?
Yeah.
Even though I was nervous to have it, even though
we have to learn how to not be so closed off and guarded. One of the
hard.
things, it is difficult, but one of the things I was thinking about the other day was like, I wonder what it would be like if, so like people post shit on Facebook all the time. What would it be like if you had the thought that you were about to post on Facebook and instead of posting it, you just held it for the next conversation that you had? Don't post it to Facebook. Sure, write out whatever your thought was going to be that you were going to post, your opinion, your big opinion that you had, save it. Have a conversation with somebody instead. See what that gets you. See how that changes the way you start to think about communication.
well, because if you bring that up in a conversation, you're going to get a response. Even if that response kind of fails, and it's like, yeah, it's interesting. And that's the end of the conversation, right? There's still a better chance for you to have a meaningful conversation than our routine is to scroll. Even on things that I want to comment on, I don't. Because I'm just like, I take it in and I go, that was interesting to me.
It's Facebook.
Yeah, and I just keep scrolling, and I just see the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You know, I don't take the time to respond. You're not going to get as many, unless it's super controversial, and then you're going to get meaningless responses anyway, which is hate or trolls, or you're not going to have as much of a chance to have a meaningful conversation.
Can I go back to a point? So you were talking about your dad and how he didn't show emotion, art.
Just we didn't have conversations.
You didn't have
deep
conversations. And like I really value and cherish deep conversations and just connection, like building a connection more than the, oh, who's your girlfriend, blah, 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 the family update, whatever. You know, I feel like that sometimes. And I know that I'm not like that, but I almost in a way feel like I understand your dad a little bit, because the way he said that when he wasn't being talked to,
I mean, he was doing.
it meant he was doing well.
Yeah.
And not that that necessarily applies to me, but I feel like I've grown up and I've taught myself to survive and instead of thriving. And so a lot of that is like, I mean, through the podcast, I'm usually pretty quiet. And so like, I don't know if there's something there. And anyways, I think it's very interesting. And I don't know, I just wanted to mention it because it's like there's something there. There's a maybe a stigma or just a way of life for some people, and I don't know. It's like a hurdle I want to jump over in a way, because I don't know how to not be reserved almost in a way.
See, that's the hardest thing about not living with my family anymore, is that or not even not living with them, living 12 hours away from them.
Right.
It's when I lived at home, I would just wander the house and bother whoever was around me, whoever I ran into first. Like, I'd go and it's not that we would bother them. Like, we all talk.
Yeah.
And it's super easy for all of us to communicate.
Yeah.
Because I would go and I would sit in my parents' room and I would talk to my mom and my stepdad just for hours when they'd have the TV on, just whatever for noise before they go to bed, and I'd sit there and I'd talk to them. Or one thing I did a lot was I would just go into my sister's bedroom and just sit with her and talk for hours.
Yeah.
Like, we would for hours. And it wasn't even about anything. I'd go in there, maybe I'd pick something up off of her, like, off her makeup, like she's got like this desk with a mirror that she does, whatever. Maybe I'd pick something up and throw it at her, and just because. And then I'd sit down and then we'd talk for. I mean, that just started it.
Same
and then
experience.
she'd be like, "What is wrong with you?" And I don't know. And then we talk, or my sister Charlie, I'll just sit and talk to her. She's 8. I'll sit and talk to her for hours and hours and hours and end. When I was home for Christmas, she didn't leave my side. I was there every time I was home. I was right next to her. My sister Peyton is very, very reserved, but I still, would go out of my way to like try and talk to her and catch up with her. And it's just like, I love that kind of social interaction and just being around them. And it was never ever small talk. It was just like, what's up in your life?
It was the same for me. Like, growing up, we were always that family that said goodbye and then talked for 5 more hours, and then we actually left. But nobody complained about it. We were all chill with it. It's just somebody bought something up, and we're like, all right, we got to talk about this. We can't leave now.
Yeah. That's the best.
It is.
It's so funny. I grew up in the complete opposite. Like, my mom and I would have conversations all the time, but they would be, we'd come in, we'd have a conversation, and then it was like, all right, cool, until the next conversation. Like that. The norm was to have them sporadically, like throughout, right? And but I also lived most of my like growing up with my dad.
Yeah.
And Tim, who was again on the episode just last time, but like Tim and I didn't talk. Like Tim and I were just like, yeah, man, what's up, bro? Like, see, you're a senior in high school now, and I'm a freshman. Cool. Try not to be awkward around your friends. Like, like, I don't know what to do. And then as you get older, you realize, there's a maturity, there's connections, there's things that you're closer to. And so Tim and I have had a lot more conversations now that we're older, significantly more than we had when we were younger. But even still, Tim and I are pretty reserved compared to like you and I or anyone at this table. Like, the conversations that we have or that we've had in the past, like, those are the people that I go deep with.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's just what you grow accustomed to. Like, part of the reason I'm comfortable with it, like, my family is all about like starting some shit. Like, somebody walks in the room, Kanye West is the best rapper ever, drop the mic, tell me why not. Boom, conversation. Everybody explodes, the room is like lit up. Yeah. That's just what I grew up used to. And then even on the more personal note, like with my dad was, I could not be quiet around my dad. That was not an option.
Yeah.
We were always talking about something. If I tried to recluse into something, like, he didn't let me do video games heavy. Like, if I read a book, that was my only like free pass. But even then,
Yeah.
But even then, I get like 4 or 5 pages deep, and he's like, "What you reading? What do you think about that?" I don't know about that, man. You would expand. Like that's always
Bro,
been what it maintained.
I literally came home and had a checklist that my dad went through. Do you have homework? Do you have any tests? How did you do on this test? Do you have any projects? Like literally almost every day, checklist. And if I passed that checklist, that was our conversation for the day.
Yeah.
It was make your own supper night and shut myself in my room and play as many video games as I could until the next day where I had to finish school, get to the checklist, and then repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was me growing up. Like, how the hell I turned out as someone who's like, I want more conversations with more people. I don't really know. Like,
Yeah.
I attribute it mostly to God, because that was just like my complete turnaround. It was like, hey, let me just be open with everyone about everything I've ever gone through and hear all that I can from everyone else. Like,
The one thing that my dad has sold for me though is like, I can't even do small talk to get to depth. Like I can't make it. I can't make it through like the little thing that could potentially get me. Like not that I
usually
can't.
doesn't
I
end up
really,
there.
I just struggle with that. I struggle with the idea that you don't immediately dive in with somebody because it's my whole experience.
well, usually
growing
someone
up.
who starts small talk, that conversation's not going there
going there,
anyway.
yeah.
They're starting small talk because that's all they want. The weather looks nice today. You're right.
All right.
I'm not going to be like, no, it doesn't. The weather looks shitty.
Shit today.
And it's like bright and sunny
You
outside.
could, you could be like, I prefer overcast.
But that's what I do. But that's what I
Even then,
started
that
doing.
person's not gonna. How does that
It
work
doesn't
out for you?
matter. Oh,
They
it
probably
doesn't.
go, good, cool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it's
not.
something different. It's something, man, the
is
weather's
different.
nice today. Or like shitty weather. It's like, actually, I really love the rain.
Yeah.
I love the rain. And then they're like, okay.
But that is, to our point, that is at least
You get to the same point, but I'm going to be honest with you.
putting
Putting
a
the
foot
effort,
forward
yeah.
to maybe try and
Try
start a
and start it,
conversation
yeah.
We're going to
versus.
get the same
And
result.
I
but
will
I'm gonna be
say,
honest.
Sure.
I will say to be fair that sometimes I've had moments like that where sometimes it does initiate something a little bit deeper.
Yes,
Because you'll
it-
say
it
like
is,
you'll
yeah.
say I prefer overcast, and that person will be like, "Why the fuck do you prefer overcast? Like sunshine is where it's at." Now it's a real conversation.
Yeah, now it's a
we're talking
conversation.
about
Now we're
genuine.
debating.
We're talking about a genuine opinion we have, something that we like or dislike, and it could lead into something else.
The only small talk I approve of is the small talk that feels necessary to start a hard conversation.
Yes.
Where someone might come up and say, weather's pretty crappy today. Like
Right.
hoping.
Yeah.
Like if that's
Please
the only way
dig at
you
me
know
and ask me
if
something.
that's the
Yeah.
only like way you feel like you can
Yeah.
start a hard conversation, then by all means do what you have to
it.
do. But like
I think I
I
literally think every time we have a conversation, I do that shit every time we have
Yeah.
a
My
conversation.
favorite.
I watched an anime last night. Cool, what is it about? Death! Death and tragedy! I'm struggling! Yeah, that's how
Like,
conversation
help
should
me.
go. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. That's so good.
Code names.
Fuck. What
So
was I
yeah.
saying?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
guys.
That was good.
On the
Yeah,
other
that's
note,
perfect.
how to make it in America?
I'm going to say we.
Find some fucking friends like these guys. Like find something like this. Like I cannot stress how important it is to have the proper support system to achieve anything that you're passionate about or that you want to fight for. You cannot do it alone. Like
That's
it is
what-
so important to have other people around you.
I was sitting, I don't know, just thinking about anything. I don't know. I was thinking the other day. I was just thinking about people that are like, oh yeah, I don't talk to my friends from high school. Like I don't talk to them anymore. It's like, well,
Why
why
the fuck not?
It's like, well, not even why not, but it's like that just means that you were friends out of convenience. You were friends because you had a lot of classes with them. You were
Yeah.
friends because you lived nearby. It's like, what? Go the extra
Mile,
mile
like, try,
to
dude.
meet people that you like. I went home for Christmas, and all I did was hang out with my family and hang out with my friends from high school. They're almost done with college. They're in their last semester. It's been 4 years. We're almost to our 5-year reunion, and we're still in touch. Not a day goes by when someone doesn't say something in our group chat.
Yeah.
It's just if you make the quality friends, because if you left high school and went, all right, well, I don't want to talk to these guys anymore, or like I just want to talk to my college friends. It's like you're friends out of convenience.
Yeah.
You don't have the quality friends or support system or people that you talk to. You just have people that you did stuff with.
Yeah.
And you know what? maybe you did actually really love talking to them and you're just poor at communication. Fine, but take the effort to make those friends that
Yeah.
stick
Strong
around.
connections.
Yeah, seriously.
It's
'Cause
worth
They
it.
don't come without
and
having
even-
deep conversations.
And even on the next level,
And
like
that even-
who's to say that friend from high school doesn't have that thing that you're gonna need in your adult life
Yes.
to achieve what you
yes.
want to achieve?
Yes.
Like it matters. Like
It does matter. It matters. And it started with the smallest of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, from preschool to 3rd grade. I was in that small Catholic school that my mom taught at. And then we switched to public school. And the class size went from because it was one class or one teacher per grade.
Yeah.
That was the graduating class. Your class that you spent all day with was it.
Yeah.
So your graduating class was like 30 people. And then I went to public school where it was still, for public school,
Pretty small.
small. But my graduating class was 208 people.
That is pretty small.
A lot bigger than what I was used
Used
to.
to.
And 4th grade, when you jump into that, everyone's already made friends. So I didn't make friends until being extremely introverted and quiet also did not help. But I had, a friend every grade. But I didn't
Yeah.
make a group of friends till sophomore year in high school. And that only happened because the one friend I had got switched. So freshman year, we sat together at lunch, and that was it. We just sat by ourselves. And then freshman year, he had a different lunch. And it was like, fuck, I don't know anybody. The lunchroom's packed.
Oh,
I don't know
dude,
anyone.
The amount of
And
social anxiety that shit used to give
Yes.
you in high
Oh my
school.
God.
Is a lot. And,
Oh my
and
gosh.
the only reason I found a table to sit at is because this guy Joe used to every time I see him in the hallway, be like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And that was it. That was the only interaction. I never talked to him. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him. I don't know how it started, but it did. And I saw him at a lunch table, and I went and sat there. And those are the guys I still hang out with till
There it is.
today. And it started with the smallest thing, and I just went, I know him.
Yep.
He's gonna introduce me to the rest of these guys. And
You said his name was Joe?
yeah,
I like Joe.
yeah.
like
Joe Dahl. I love him to death. I spent almost every day in high school with him. I
Yeah.
used to sleep over at his house all the time. Joe, Brian, Nate, Sam,
Tree
Garrett,
Sands.
Sam is
Dominic,
the best name ever.
all the boys, all the guys I see, like Wajdi, all the guys I see when I go home. Garrett, I think I
Yeah.
said that already.
Like
Just everybody, they were all there. And we all
Dude,
hang
you're
out,
one
and they're
the
amazing.
only one friend who's listening to this podcast right now. It's like you forgot his name.
I know, probably. I really,
He's like,
I could go through
dude,
the
what
whole,
the
I could-
fuck, bro?
I can go through the whole group chat right now, and I know it's gonna happen when I go and I have to accept my Oscar. I'm not gonna remember everybody's names, so I'm sorry. It's just starting now. It's
sorry
not-
in advance.
sorry in advance. I'll thank
my
you
gosh.
afterwards, but I'm really in the moment and just.
No, I get that. I'm just.
But
that's
yeah, no,
fun.
you're
That's
totally
fun.
right. But yeah, no, I love them all to death, and those are the guys I still talk to.
Yeah. I think in the conversation of how to make it in America, I'd say one, I was pleasantly surprised by my opinion being just like completely shut down from the get go and like wanting to come in and rant. I think this was an awesome conversation. I think my biggest takeaways are probably communication. Like,
Yeah.
we can't stress that enough.
Huge.
But also seek out, find, like, work for different information and different stories than you'd normally be exposed to. There's another podcast that I really wanted to shout out, and it's called Revisionist History with Malcolm Gladwell, kind of highlighting some
I got a shout out after you. so.
some really interesting topics. There's a specific topic where he covers the school system and specifically lower income school systems.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name right now, so I'll make sure that we link it in the information. But it's definitely something that is worth listening to as far as the school system is concerned and how that's affecting bottom line of who's going where and how they're getting there. But it's that kind of information and those kind of stories that I think you have to make it a priority to seek out, to have different experiences in your life, to see different ways that people walk and how they come up. Like even at just the four of us, like I don't talk to my high school friends. I thought I would till the day I died. And that's something that I kind of like struggle with back and forth, But hearing that story versus mine, and hearing, how you respond to my dad versus how I did, but how my dad is versus your dad, like, there's so many different people. Everyone is different. Every experience is different, and the amount that we can learn from each other, if we prioritize finding different experiences and information with communication, that's how we bring things up to speed. That's how we change for the best. That's how we start improving all the big areas in this country and in this world that need to be improved.
Yeah. Oh, shout out. It's very similar to that. The podcast is Hidden Brain. I was talking about earlier. The episode title is Zip Code Destiny, and you can imagine what that's about. But it's just it goes into a lot of the statistics and how where you grow up affects the future. From a like there are the exceptions, but like from a statistical standpoint, like the difficulties that people in certain zip codes have to overcome versus those who are in more, what would be the proper way, beneficial or easier.
You know what's really tragic as an adult? I read Gifted Hands, which is the entire story about Ben Carson and how he became like a world-renowned neurosurgeon.
Mm-hmm. He's the guy who ran for president.
And that's what's sad. That is why it's a sad adult life, because I read that book and it was hands down one of the most inspirational things I've ever read. Dude was not great at school, terrible behavior, lived in like really, really hard times. Like they just didn't have it. And he had this massive turnaround coming out of the end of like his middle school age. And he started having these people nurture him, like start to teach him the way that he learned best. And he grew all the way into like the first guy who ever did Siamese twin separation, like successfully. Yes, that was Ben Carson. And so it's like, damn, that's cool. That's a cool inspirational story. It's sad that we have like the modern version of him. I just kind of want to delete that part.
Because then he said the pyramids were built like 3,000 years ago.
Not the same person, but like that's like a book I would promote for people to read. As far as like the American dream goes, or how to make it in America. That's a really cool story. I think everybody should read. I really did love Gifted Hands. Yeah. But I also say that to say, I think what's important in the conversation of how to make it in America is to speak to both sides. Yes, I want to speak to the side who, like, you're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to dig real hard to get what you want. But I also want to speak to the side who has achieved some level of success. Like to Corey's point, if you have an opportunity to provide any form of access, it doesn't mean you need to open up your wallet to somebody. But if you can even just point them in the right direction to kind of help them build towards something that they want to create. And that can be anybody. It doesn't need to be somebody who's successful. If it's your son that you have the opportunity to open access to, do it. If it's your friend that you have the opportunity to open access to, do it. Like, be more open in that realm of communication towards helping people start to work towards that goal. That's how you achieve the American dream of equal opportunity. Is that there's always something to be brought to the table for everyone. But yeah, I truly loved this conversation. This went phenomenal.
We didn't even pull up the statistics.
I know, which
no,
I
didn't need to.
I'm actually just gonna save them for. I'll put those in the blog post.
Yeah, great.
For you guys to see that.
Any takeaways? Any big takeaways from conversation today?
Big takeaways. I think the biggest thing to remember from this episode is just talking to people, but not specifically people, but talking to people outside of your generation. Mm-hmm. Talking to people that aren't necessarily your peers, talking to older people, talking to younger people. I think that's the biggest thing, is that communication between different age ranges is difficult, because you can't start with something, even if you do start with small talk to then get into deeper topics, it's harder to find something in common. Yep. To be like, man, did you see that thing on Twitter? And have someone from an older generation being like, "What's Twitter?" And be like, "Well, I guess that's a different conversation entirely than what we were going to go to." Yeah. But if you take the time to talk and then to listen to someone from a different generation than you, a different background than you.
Yeah.
I think that all, I don't know, it leads to, I don't know, better things for you, better things for a better world, a better place to
Yeah.
be. It's just more understanding. That's the biggest thing, is understanding other people.
Yeah, I think like going into those conversations with like the understanding that people are different and they have different like upbringings, and so
Yeah.
like there's a reason. It's not. There's a reason they don't know what Twitter is in that situation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, and it reminds me of a scene from one of my favorite movies, Captain Fantastic, when they're at the dinner table. You have two families at a dinner table, and you have one family has 2 kids, and then the other family has like, 7 kids or something.
Yeah.
And so these 2 kids are like, check out these Nikes or whatever. And the other kids are like, I don't know what Nikes are, because they grew up literally in the wilderness.
In the woods, yes.
In the woods. And Nikes are not a thing that they're concerned about.
Right.
And it's, in the movie, they just like make fun of them and just kind of like, what do you mean? How do you not know that? It's like, no, they have a different upbringing. There's a reason they don't know what
It really
Nikes
is.
are.
It really is a great scene, and it's so interesting to think about like that scene specifically. Is the perspective of like proper communication in that moment, where it's like we grew up in the woods, we don't know what the fuck Nikes are, but we have all these skills from growing up in the woods. It's like, well, we grew up in a house,
Yeah.
we got these dope ass Nikes. Let me tell you what these Nikes could do for your
biggest-
feet while you're in the woods.
the
It was like,
biggest thing-
well, let me what you could do the next time you're in the like that's the healthy version of that communication.
Well, I was gonna say the biggest thing is that they paint that. Okay, so they paint that scene as from their what's the family's last name? The one that they live in the woods. What do they go by?
I don't know.
The Fantastics. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
I call them the Fantastics.
Well, for
Either
now,
way, for that family, the 7 kids, it paints it from their perspective, which is like I am right and this is different, and like who gives a shit about shoes? Who gives a shit about your Xbox? Like no one cares. And the biggest problem with that I have is that like it's the communication on both ends was garbage. The communications from both families was shit.
Yeah.
It was they both came at it like we're doing family
The right way.
Right, yeah.
and
That's-
they did, and that was the biggest issue.
That was
in that
a
scene.
part of the tension of that
Right, which
movie that
was-
was held really well though, is like him believing with all of his heart that this was the right way and having those constant moments of questioning back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know.
The superiority complex of them living in the
Well,
woods was a big problem.
It's, again, what we talked about earlier was the proper way to communicate. And,
Yes.
and what you guys are getting at right now, but saying, like, when you look at someone who is so drastically different from you, it is very easy to look at them and go, that's not right, that's not
Yeah.
right, that's not right. Instead of going, I wonder why you do it that
That's
way.
different. Yeah.
Let me know. Like, have a conversation with me. Explain to me why you do it this way. And even if I disagree with you, it's still not getting angry at you, which is portrayed in that movie, right? And it's that tension of like,
Yeah.
and I think that's actually more of what happens. Is I think why it's powerful to show it that way
Yeah.
is because in situations where things are so drastically different, there's tension and there's frustration that comes into those conversations versus humility and understanding of the differences.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
so strive to be a better person.
For sure.
Basically, yeah.
Try
Yeah.
to communicate better.
Strive
Which
to
will make you a
really,
better person.
Yes.
really, really communicate better. Do
I
we
think-
have any announcements? I don't think we have anything. As
Nothing
of
major
yet.
going on
Nothing
other than
major.
Next episodes.
Yeah.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe,
Share.
share. All
Hit that
stuff.
notification bell because we're on YouTube now.
Because we're on YouTube now,
Boom.
so watch us there.
And for the person who made it, I was just thinking about this. The reason why they say like, comment, share, subscribe in the beginning is because no one makes it here. So for the one person who is listening to our voices right now, who is hearing me say this, kudos to you. Because I always feel special when I'm listening to something and I'm like, oh yeah, I made it to that point. That's right. Thanks, bro. Thanks, man.
You feel good about yourself
Yeah.
right now.
So for you one
Feel free to feel good about yourself.
who
right
made it
now.
here, make sure you tell other people to share and like and comment and subscribe for us because,
For sure.
and then we might start saying share and subscribe in the beginning. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah,
All right. Let's.
wrap things up.
This has been Across the Table.
We'll get drinks at some point.
Yeah, and we'll clink them. We love you
Yes.
guys, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.